Season 2 Plus has begun, and with it comes new challenges, a new map, new terrain, and of course, with it comes brand new builds because we always want to keep up with the meta as much as possible. So, in this video, we'll be updating our seasonal guide for the talents, and which I think will be the best talents for every commander in the game going forward in Season 2 Plus. But do note, of course, these talents can be subject to change as people test out more stuff and fine tune their builds even more. What is up guys, MEOWER here back with a brand new Call of Dragons video. So Season 2 has finally, 2 plus I mean, has finally begun and with it comes everything new. We got a new map, barricades are getting removed soon, we're getting turrets, we're getting more choke points, but choke points will be different now that barricades are being removed. You can actually try to contest choke points because as we read in a previous video, that we received a system mail that in the next update 1.0.21 barricades are being removed. So of course we want to react accordingly because the meta will be shifting. So with it, we need to keep up with it as well. So before we get started, be sure to drop a like, don't forget to subscribe, and let's start on our heroes, which I think the best talents will be for them for every single situation going forward. But of course, this is strictly PvP builds. PvE builds are, well, they're nice. I mean, but what are the chances of you just constantly switching between them? Like, there's not really much change between PvP and PvE, but like, we always want to emphasize more on PvP. So starting off, we're gonna be starting with with our boy, the Merit Printer Syndrome. Syndrome, of course, should always be a primary commander. We want to go for the full precision tree as usual. We go for overall attack, march speed, HP. We're gonna go for arrow precision. We're gonna go for overall attack, march speed, strengthened weaponry, and then we go for whirlwind, and then we go for cool under pressure. We go for intrepid. We go for unstoppable, and then we go for mark of war, and then we double dip into the precision tree because marksman tree is not that good. We go for head held high, just so we can rage cycle. We go for force of will. We go for suppression, and finally the last 2 points goes into adrenaline rush. So that's it for syndrome. Now for Frager, Frager should not really be a primary, but if you want to run her primary, I guess you could utilize this build. Though of course this build is not perfect, not gonna lie. Um, I haven't really figured out a proper build for her because both marksman tree and mobility tree are pretty bad. I would say, unless you're pretty much just gonna use her for farm killing. So this is the tree I would use to farm kill with her, if she has a correct secondary and she's flying. Otherwise, I mean, I wouldn't really touch her as a primary, you know. But of course, this is just me. If you have a better talent tree for her, please do share. But I am completely lost on what to run on her as a primary commander. So I don't feel like she could even be a primary at all, and she should not really be separated from Syndrome. Next up, we got our boy Hosk. Hosk, we mentioned it before in the merit printing video, and if you haven't watched it, I will leave a link to it. It will should pop up here on this video somewhere. We go overall attack, we go overall march speed, overall health, arrow precision. We go for overall attack, we go for march speed, we go for last words, whirlwind, cool under pressure. We go for intrepid, unstoppable, mark of war, and then we double dip. We go into irrepressible. We go for head held high. We go for force of will, and then we go for 1 point into suppression and 1 point into adrenaline rush. Though of course you can go for 2 points into suppression. This is of course for the counterattack build. I think this is by far the best tree in general for Hosk. Overall tree, well, pretty meh. Like this is only 4 rage per turn, which is not that massive. You're already overcapping on regeneration when you're hit by multiple people. So this is just overkill, and there is really no other reason why you should even dip into this tree in general. It's not that good. So you should just go all in on the precision tree. Next up, Lilia. Now, a bit has changed for Lilia. Um, we more focus more on march speed now because we want to position as much as possible. Plus, stuff like foresight or head held high. Head held high is much better. So we're gonna go for overall attack, march speed, HP. We're gonna go for mighty power. We're gonna go overall attack. We're gonna go for intimidation. We're gonna go for head held high. We're gonna go for boiling blood just to improve her deputy because spirit of rage is pretty bad. Um, this is a waste. It'd be better off just improving your deputy skill damage, even if it is not a villain, even if it's a warrior, if it's an Alwyn. That extra 8% is much more valuable than a measly extra um, 20 rage. So here is the main debate where I meant where things could change. I'm feeling detached could be much better because the whole damage source of mages is from uh, skill damage plus 4% normal attack damage doesn't really impact your uh, base stats by any shape or form. So this does not weaken your hero skill damage. If anything, you just gain an extra 8% more hero skill damage in exchange for attacking your normal attacks, dealing 4% less damage, which in the grand scheme of things as a mage, all of your damage comes for your rage from your skill damage. So you're not really missing out on anything. Plus, this improves every single thing that has a hero skill damage written in its kit. So it improves the score. It improves the scorch because this has a magic damage factor. So everything that has a magic damage factor gets improved by hero skill damage in general. So you're far better just investing in this to improve everything that your commander can do and much more. Next up, we're going to go for Focus, we're going to go for Raging Tide, and finally we're going to go for Caged Animal because Caged Animal is by far one of the best talents in the game in general. And then we're going to go into the Magic Tree. We're going to go for HP, for the extra tankiness, March Speed, Intimidation again, and of course Magic Maelstrom for the extra 10% defense break. So that is it for Lilia. Next up, we got our boy Velen. Velen is an interesting case as he can work as a primary, he could work as a secondary, but this is the tree I would much rather run him with, for now at least. If you're going to run him as a primary, he could be like a utility silencing machine, but there are so many builds to go with him. You can go for the defense break cycling, you can go for the CC machine. Like these are the two most valuable builds for him. PvP tree, of course, outshines the magic tree in general. So we're going to go for this is the build number one, the CC machine. Overall attack, overall speed, overall HP, backstabber, speed, attack, head held high, and then Cyclone Seal just to slow people, and then Blind Snare, extremely OP, slowing people for 30% is no joke, especially with the hard range, and then Ambush to damage defense break even more. Sage to nuke their hero skill damage, or rather make them take even more hero skill damage from you, which is the whole point of mages. And finally, Ritsend to silence people. And then we go for the PvP tree, we go for overall attack, we go for March speed, and then we go for Fury Flame, and finally we cap it off with Army of Valor. And finally, our last point, we just take Tremble just to reduce their attack by 1%. Who knows, maybe that 1% will help you win in the end, but you can throw that last point anywhere really, but I would just go for that extra 1%. You shouldn't go into Head Hell High because it doesn't stack. If anything, you're just wasting an extra point in general. Next up, we got Canara. For Canara, this is the counterattack build I would run on her if she is the primary from Hosk Canara, or really if she's the primary in general, this is by far the best tree for her. You go for attack, more speed, HP, we go for backstabber, we go for overall speed, last word, adrenaline rush, we go for silent seal, soul siphon, we go for blind snare, ambush, sage, and finally red scent, and then we go into overall attack, march speed, fury flame, and finally we go for army of valor. And the last point, of course, same thing with Velen, but again, you can put it anywhere really. You can even put it here in head held high, though I would prefer you put it in something like all conquering if you don't like tremble, or even something like an extra healing, but it's all up to you in the end. This is just what I would go for myself. Next up, Mommy Mateline. The mommy's mommy of all of Call of Dragons right now. Though Skogul could be giving her a run for her money. But again, we go all in on the infantry tree because the tank tree is just a worse infantry tree in general. So you're better off just double dipping into the infantry tree. You should not be wasting 15 points in this just to try to get Unyielding Spirit when you can get a somewhat slightly close to it in all conquering. So infantry tree is just far more superior than the tank tree in general. So don't really touch the tank tree. So starting off, we go for overall attack, we go for march speed, we go for overall HP, shield of stability, defense, more speed, extra healing because Mateline, you do pair her with Garwood, but if you're not going to be pairing her with Garwood, I would put Assassins in Waiting much more. So this is up to you depending on your pairing. So Heaven's Blessing if she's with Garwood, Assassins in Waiting if she's with someone else, cool-headed, all-conquering generalist, flank protection, just so she's more tanky once she's surrounded by other infantry, and then Iron Will to make her rage skill last even longer. And then we double dip into the infantry tree. We go for encouraging dance, we go for solid shield, we go for rectification, and finally the last 2 points go to egoism. Now here's the thing, you can go 5 egoism, 2 March speed, or 5 March speed and 2 egoism. This is up to you and depending on your state of the game. Next up, we got our boy Niko. This is the build I go for Niko on. We've discussed this build in the merit printing guide. Again, the link will be somewhere in the video, or you can just look it up my channel and explain the thought process even more in depth on why we go for this. But just to tell that I don't take too much time in this video, we're gonna go for overall attack, overall speed, HP, air of precision, attack, more speed, counter attack, whirlwind, cool under pressure, head held high, dedication, mark of war, and then we go for suppression. We go for the marksman tree with 5 extra points in head held high and 2 points into marksman speed. Thea is the same boat as Frager. I don't feel like she should be a primary in general. But if you want to run her primary, to be honest, I don't really know what to put on her. I'm gonna be just flat out completely honest with you. Maybe copy one of those builds, but in general, Thea is more of a support commander, and support commanders should not be placed on primary. Garwood, I would just go for all in on the garrison tree because if you're using really Garwood, I would say like just put him as a garrison captain. Um, But yeah, I wouldn't really use Garwood as a primary in open field as long as you have anything else. But if you don't, I would just give him the same tree as Mateline with removing Solid Shield and giving him an extra egoism and maybe a couple of points in Assassins and Waiting. But yeah, other than that, Garwood doesn't really have any other viable trees other than full infantry or full garrison. In this same boat as a Thea, she doesn't really have any good shield, any tree to dip into, so she's better off just being a secondary for maybe a third uh, Mage March, just to make use of her uh, little confirm debuff that she applies. Plus, I'm super close to awaken her, so maybe I can start running a secondary Mage March with her, like maybe a Woldir in this or something like that. I don't know. I haven't really decided, but for now, I don't think she should be primary, though correct me if I'm wrong. If you have a talent tree that you feel like is viable and you've completely tested it multiple times, please do tell me in the comments below or tag me on my Discord. I would love to see it and we can discuss and see what we can figure out together. Next up, we got our boy Bakshi. You know, same concept. Um, Here's the thing though. For Bakshi, you go for the standard attack, speed, HP, mighty power, attack, skill damage, head how high, boiling blood. You go for the unquenchable will, though I would swap it with detached. So let's just reswap this. You go for this, 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 and then here. Here you have two options. You can either go for steady hands in order to get the synergy buff, or you can go for the hero's crit damage. I would go for the hero crit damage personally. I went detached steady hands before, but I didn't really like how it felt, so I would rather just go for the hero skill damage, the guaranteed hero crit damage, I mean, and then we will go for here, cavalry tree, cavalry attack, because attack does help your skill damage in general. And then here, and then finally we go for perfect ferocity. So this is the build I would go for on Bakshi, and maybe give him like an extra, just all conquering, make him that much tankier, maybe that 1% could save you on the field. Next up, we got our boy Emeris. Emeris, of course, you go like this. This is the Sonic build for raw farm killing. This has no viability in the open field open field fighting outside of just raw farm killing or cutting off reinforcements. If you want to run him as a primary though, I would just go for the PvP tree with the defense break plus wait, let me reset this just to showcase it. So I will go this. Though Emeris right now, I feel like he's better off as a secondary with someone like Ferrando because the control tree is just so busted on cavalry, and I'll explain why as soon as I reach Ferrando. Go here, we go here, attack, attack, skill damage, and then here, and then we go for the extra all conquering here. And this is the build I will run with Emeris in a raw PvP battle. We always want to have a nice little defense break. It does help out. That extra 10% will help out in general. And this is just way too useless. Plus, mobility tree is the worst tree in the game by far, especially late game. So yeah. Nika no longer viable for season 2 plus. Throw her in the trash pretty much. She's just not viable. And if you don't really have a proper infantry march, I wouldn't really recommend you use infantry in general, especially because in Season 2 Plus, everyone is just that much higher power now, so you're just gonna melt and feed players' merits, so you might as well just not bother with her in general. Next up, we got our boy Ferrando. This is the tree I would go for on him. We go for overall attack, march speed, HP, go for balanced heart, we go for overall speed, attack, extra normal attack, cyclone seal, blindside, ambush, sage, and then red set. Then we go for attack, more speed, skill damage, and army of valor. And finally, we'll go for head high for that extra rage cycling potential. This is by far one of the best trees in general for cavalry. It gives them everything they need. It gives cavalry CC, and cavalry don't really have any crowd control in general. So the fact that this tree allows cavalry to have access to so much slows, it makes them that much deadlier and that much more ferocious on the field, especially with how overloaded Frondo's kit is. He is by far one of the most disgustingly broken commanders in the field, and I'm so glad that cavalry are not that viable in the field, because otherwise we would have this flyboy just terrorizing everyone, especially us archer mates. Then we got our boy Theodore. Theodore, he has two main builds. You can either go for this if you're garrisoning, or this if you're going for open field. It's the same concept as Bakshi when it comes to open field, so I don't really need to explain it again. As for the garrison, we don't really use any march speed at all. We just go for as much stats as possible. We go for overall defense, HP, mighty power, HP, attack, counter attack, fair defense, extra skill damage, having an extra 100 rage generation is insane. Getting an extra 5% more damage, and then finally we go for formidable to make the enemy target take or rather deal less 10 skill damage by 10%, which is insane, especially in something like a rally fights. And then we go for the skill tree. We go for attack, intimidation, 3 points into last word, 2 points into head high, though I would rather you just go all in on last word, and then finally boiling blood. Now, Goresh, the new guy in town. Goresh is an interesting commander. I will go more in depth in their video when it comes to their guides on why I think those trees will work on them and my thoughts on them. But the more I test them and have my friends test them, the more I'm less impressed by them in general. I'll explain why when it comes to their turn in their guides for their videos. Next up, we got Wego, overall attack, overall speed, overall health, shield of stability, defense, march speed, adrenaline rush, cool headed, all conquering, generalist, flank protection, and of course Iron Will. And then we always want to double dip on the infantry tree. We go for encouraging dance, extra counter attack, and then the extra march speed, and finally the last 2 points go into assassins in waiting. This is somewhat similar to Madeline, but it is a bit more squishy and more like complements everything that he wants when it comes to Mars speed, getting into people's face, dealing that much more counterattack, and so on and so forth. But I will explain the entire thought process behind this tree when it comes to his build. Skullgirl, on the other hand, I feel like she's in the same boat as something like a Frager. I don't think she should be primary. And the reason for that is because the way her kit works, it just complements Goresh. So she should always be secondary to Goresh or secondary to Madeline. I don't think she's viable with anyone else, and I'll explain why that is the case when it comes to her turn for her special guide. We got our boy Waldir, just gonna speed through the rest of the epic commanders. This is the regular defense break cycle build, the same concept as Villains, and then we have the skill damage. You can pick and choose whatever you want, of course, but I would put in detached instead of unquenchable will. Guanwin, no longer viable. Alistar, throw him in the trash, don't even bother with him. Eliana, not viable for PvP. Atheist, for raiding purposes, or even just for PvP purposes, I would run this build. This is the little, raiding build, but this is the PvP build pretty much. Alwyn, you know, has the full defense break cycling build, or he has the control tree build, or of course you can go for PvP instead of magic. It's all up to you, though he's not that viable as primary, especially. Bakar, not viable, don't use. Craig, not viable as primary, don't use as primary. He's pretty bad. Of course, OP Chakcha, you know, I'll let you figure out his skills on your own. And Ordo, we go for engineering here. This is probably, I think, the best engineering tree build in general. Though after barricades are removed, I will have to revisit this and probably update it. But for now, I think this is the most perfect build for him in general. And of course, Kella, extremely OP as well, same boat as Chakcha. And yeah, I think that's pretty much everything, every single commander in the game right now. Though, of course, I do have to remind you, opinions are always opinions. If you have better builds, feel free to share. We all want to improve together. And on that note, thank you so much for watching. If you like content like this, please don't forget to drop a like. Don't forget to subscribe. Join the Discord. The link is in the description. I would love to see you all there, and I will see you in the next video. Meow meow.